readers, welcome back to Reading Realm. First of all, I have added my book dragon to my setup here because I found it when I was unpacking some stuff, and it's very cute, sitting on a book, reading a book. So, I wanted to show that because it's very cute and it will just be sitting there in my recordings now, so I'm excited about that. And I'm excited to be here recording this video. So today I am reviewing Sun Warrior by PC Cast. This is the second in the series that started with Moon Chosen. So I talked a lot in that review about how I love the world building, and it's just really, really, really good. It's only getting better. Like at the end of the first one, I kind of thought, okay, well, these different groups have kind of established their lifestyle and their traditions and their sort of cultures. And, like, that's really cool world building, but I feel like I know most of it now. But no, there's more, and it's really, really cool. Also, I don't remember whether this happened in Moon Chosen or whether it was more prevalent in this one, but I think it was mentioned again in this one, so I want to bring it up again because I think it's cool. There is mention just completely casually that in this society and this world, queer relationships are just kind of like whatever. Like, whoever wants to be with whoever can be with whoever, and it's not something that people are judged for, which I think is super cool. And not to go too far into a different book, but I'm reading the third book right now. And the first chapter is from a character who's never been in the series before, and also a group of people that's never been in the series before. They've been mentioned in Sun Warrior quite a bit, but they have never had a chapter from their perspective until the beginning of the third book. And I'm pretty sure that this new character is asexual, which I think is super cool that there's representation for a character like that, and I'll talk about that more when I do actually review that book, but I haven't finished it yet. But I love how I feel like in so many fantasy worlds, unless there is a major character who is queer in some way, it's never mentioned how relationships that are non-heterosexual are actually viewed in that world. And it's kind of like straight is the default in a lot of stories in fantasy and a lot of other genres, but especially ones with world building where it isn't like the real world where you kind of have a sense of how that is already. And so I think it's super cool that the author went out of her way to mention that that is just totally normal, even though the characters who are discussing it are not queer themselves, which I thought was just really cool, and I want to call attention to that because I love seeing that. I love seeing representation, and there is a character that was in the first book and the second book, and will continue to be in the third book, who was female and had a female partner, and so that was cool. But to also hear these other characters just say, like, yeah, I mean, it's weirder to judge people for that than for people to be in same-sex relationships, I thought was just very, very fun, and I love that, because there's a lot of other things people are judged for in the books, like one culture judging people from the other culture, or clan, tribe, all of those things kind of having misconceptions or judgments about each other. But having that be the thing where it's like, yeah, I mean, that's just totally normal. I liked that part. So I felt like that needs more attention, and I'm excited to see more about this potentially asexual character in the third book, because also, independent from that, she just seems like a super cool character, and um, she's only been in the one chapter so far, and then it switches back to a different perspective, but um, she seems really, really cool, and it's a new group of people with a new culture to learn about and more world building, and already, just from the one chapter, it's like, that's so cool. But anyway, about this book specifically, because that's what I'm reviewing today. Um, I really, really liked it. I think the thing for me about this book is, in this book, there are multiple perspectives, kind of like the first book had multiple perspectives. And it's kind of interesting for me because two of them, Nick's perspective, or like the Tribe of Trees people's perspective, and Mari's perspective, I was like, I cannot put this book down. This is amazing. Like, I want to know what happens next. This is so good. And then the perspective with Deadeye and the Skin Stealers, which is another group. In the first book, too, I felt like every time I would get to a chapter with that perspective, that would be the point where I would, like, start reading the chapter and be like, I'll put the book down and do something else now. Like, it was never as compelling for me as the others quite as much, just because I feel like I didn't really connect with the characters, and I wasn't as invested in the characters as much at the time. And being careful how I say this for spoilers, there is a part in this book where something happens that really drastically shifts the dynamic between Deadeye and Dove. And at that point, it becomes hard to read because of this one character forcing themselves on Dove, which is kind of hard to read. But at that point, I kind of got more invested in Dove's story, not necessarily the other characters from that perspective, but like I started wanting Dove to do well and be in a better situation. And so that's kind of the point where it started to shift and that perspective started to become more compelling for me. And I would say that perspective is still the one that I'm kind of the least invested in at this point, even. Just because I feel like I really like Nick and Mari so much that whenever I'm reading their perspectives, I really want to know what happens. I like their dynamics. There's a ton of stuff with them that's, I feel like, really well balanced in terms of like serious things that are happening, but also some comic relief, and also just they're fun characters. So I've been really enjoying those. But then this other perspective, it's like I am starting to care more about it, and it's interesting too because this is the book where that other perspective with the Skin Stealers becomes more ingrained with the other perspectives, because in the first book, the three perspectives started really, really separate from each other. And as the book progressed, Nick and Mari's stories kind of started to get more interconnected. But then the Skin Stealers were still kind of over being their own thing and like more separate from the rest of what was happening, and they were kind of observing from a distance some of the things that happened and like scheming and planning about it, but there was not very much actual interaction. But in this one, it becomes a lot more, whether direct or indirect, their influence becomes a lot more of a thing. And I just have to point this out because this threw me off so much. Because of the wording of this, because this book, obviously, as I've talked about, it is very much fantasy. It is really cool world building. It is not set in modern times. It is set in like a futuristic time when people have kind of destroyed themselves with technology and then gone back to living in nature. So it is not set in our current real world in current times, which is why this specific thing threw me off so much that I had to like immediately check the publication date for this book, because this book was published in 2017. I'm pretty sure, yes, 2017. And the reason why I was so thrown off, and it took me out of it for like 5 minutes, I was like, I don't know if this is a coincidence or not. Because I feel like for a lot of the book, I haven't gotten the sense that this is trying to make any kind of real world commentary on something in a really specific way. But there is a part in this book where a character says the phrase, "make the tribe great again," and uses it like twice. And because of American politics, the wording of that line in relation to like "make America great again" just threw me off so hard, because I was like, I don't know if this is intentionally trying to like compare this character, but it was just out of nowhere, and I just found it really, really funny. And so I don't know if that's what the author intended, but it was phrased so specifically, like exactly like "make the tribe great again," that I had to check the publication date, and then I was just like, I need a few minutes, because that is really unexpected. Because like other than that, if that is intentional, I don't really see a ton of political commentary in the subtext of this book. I mean, there's definitely like themes about being too power hungry, or being too selfish, or kind of hating people who are different and trying to blame them for everything and stuff like that. But overall, like it doesn't seem like it has too many parallels to like real world politics as far as I can see, other than just general overarching themes about like what makes a good leader or not. But that was just wild to read, because I was not expecting it, and it was just, I don't know exactly what to think about it, but that was kind of fun. But I will also say that I think one thing that this book does really, really well is develops various interpersonal relationships in a really, really natural, really organic way that I really, really like. Because I feel like there are a lot of times where sometimes a relationship can feel like the author needs them to be together, or like they're sort of like, will give them a partner. And I've definitely read books where that is the case, where it feels like a little bit more forced. And in this one, for both romantic relationships and non-romantic relationships, I feel like it sort of moves at a really, really good pace. And I think especially Nick and Mari's relationship, which is, by this point, more of a romantic relationship, I think it's really, really cool because Nick is from a different tribe than Mari, and in Mari's culture, women are the people who are sort of not necessarily a higher status, but like they get the final say in picking their mate and who they want to be with, and the male person has to kind of like work for it and court them and gain their approval, and then the female person gets final say. And I think it was super cool how that is not at all how it works in Nick's tribe, but he was super open to like teach me what I need to do to like earn being your partner, which I thought was just, it's fun to see that dynamic because he and a few other people who are not from Mari's clan had moments where they had to learn about clan culture and were super willing to learn and like, okay, I understand. I'll try to learn and be better about this. Which I thought was really, really interesting in comparison to some of the people who are like, we hate these people, we don't want to give them a chance, like, it's their fault for all this stuff. And I think that that's really, really fun to see, like, this one group where they're super open and welcoming, and even when some of them are a little bit hesitant, like, these are these people that I'm not really sure, like, what if they're here to trick us or hurt us, but then everyone opens up, and it's just a really, really cool, wholesome dynamic. And also, oh my gosh, I talked about this in the last one, but the dogs in this, because dogs are an important part of the tribe culture for the people in the Tribe of the Trees. And I love the way they write the dogs, because she writes the dogs with so much personality and so much individuality that if I read a random line from this book in reference to a dog and it didn't say the name of the dog, I could probably guess which dog it is just because she makes them so unique. And I love that because I have my own dog and he has such a big personality and it's so fun to kind of see some of him in these other characters. And there's a part where some of the dogs are injured and their companions are not taking care of them very well, because they are, I guess, brainwashed might be the closest word. And that part made me so mad because I was like, I don't care, like, what you think is going on. Your dogs are hurting, and that's not okay. And so that part was like, oh my gosh, how dare you? And already I didn't really support those people and what they were doing. But I will say this book also ends on the most dramatic cliffhanger. One of the most dramatic cliffhangers. And unlike me complaining about the cliffhangers with Natasha Preston, that it's a cliffhanger that I hate because it's only one book and it's over, this one does have 2 more books in the series. But it ended, and it was so dramatic. The entire last few chapters, I would say, are all really dramatic, and like you can't put the book down. It's just amazing. And that's kind of the point where all three groups finally are kind of more interacting with each other. And I'm going to keep it a little vague because it would be a big spoiler to talk too much about it. But it was absolutely amazing. And at the end, I was like, I have to know what happens next. And I picked up the third book, and I love the new perspective and the new character, but at first when I saw it was the new perspective and the new character. And also that perspective goes back 3 years. So that first chapter is 3 years before the events of this. And then it goes back to present time, which is kind of interesting. But when I saw it was not just a continuation of what was happening, I was like, no, but I have to know what happens. But it does get back to those perspectives soon after, so it's okay. But I love this book. I love this whole series so far. I'm not very far into the third one yet. I'm like 4 chapters in. But it is amazing. And also, I just have to draw attention once again to the covers of these books because they are just so beautiful, and the more you look at them, the more you notice subtle things. Like here, this is like Mari and Rigel, and then I think this is supposed to be Bast, which is the Lynx. But it is amazing. Also, I have a Band-Aid because I finished my internship today, and yesterday a squirrel chomped my finger because they were fighting over a syringe of formula, and so the western gray squirrels get really territorial, or not territorial, but jealous and fight over the food, so that's why I have that. But this is just such an amazing book. And also, I think it's really interesting. I talked about how the characters are starting to try to learn and embrace each other's cultures, but also it's very interesting because there are a couple characters who also start to embrace another people's religion. And I'm thinking of a specific character because he, like, instantly has a connection with the clan's, sort of deity, which is, like, the Earth Mother, in a way some of the clan don't even have. And I think that that's just super cool. And then there's also, again, I'm trying to be really careful not to give away too many spoilers, but there is a time where Mari is not the only clan person to be chosen by a dog, which until then had been completely unheard of. Like, only the people in the tribe had the dogs and were chosen by dogs as their companion. And I thought that that was so cool because it kind of is showing that not only are the people changing, kind of moving forward from this divided, like, we're the tribe, we're the clan, because in the plot of this, there is a lot of them learning how to work together and become a new pack instead of a tribe and a clan. Some of them are still divided, but I think that that's really cool that it kind of shows that also the dogs, some of them, are now also feeling that, like, we don't have to only pick a tribesperson. There are other people who will love us and protect us even if their culture didn't grow up, like having dogs, which I think is really, really fun. And especially the one at the end. There's one toward the end, like actually very, very, very end. And that dog was being mistreated like in a chapter before. So when that happened, I was like, yes, okay, she's with someone else now. Like, she will be happy and safe and escape. And that's amazing. Because when she was getting mistreated, I was so mad because I imagined if someone did that to Cosmos, which I would never let happen, but like, I would get in a fight with someone if they did that to Cosmos. So the fact that that was happening to this dog, I was like, no, how dare. Anyway, yeah, I love this whole book. I love the world building. I love the different perspectives, I think. Especially like going into the third, I feel like I'll be more interested in all the perspectives. There's already been 3 different perspectives in the few chapters I've read, and all of them have been really interesting so far. And I'm super excited to see more of the Wind Riders, which is what this new character that was in the first chapter is. Because just from that first chapter, their culture and lifestyle seems so cool. And I also just have to say, briefly, because I know I've been talking for a while, I love how each group of people kind of has their own version of magic. With the Earthwalkers, it is like moonlight, and the power of the moon. And then the Tribe of Trees, it's sunlight. And then this new perspective, the Wind Riders, it's really, really interesting because I'm hoping there's more world building about this later, and I'm sure it will be, or there will be. But it seems like some people have sort of an affinity for magic based on crystals, which I think is kind of cool. And it's just so fun, like all of the stuff that's going on. Also, I did say there's sort of 3 cultures. There are actually 4, not counting the Wind Riders, because I'm talking about the ones you actually meet in this book, because Antreus and Bast are from a different culture than the Skinwalkers, the Tribe of Trees, or the clan of Earthwalkers, but they are just only 2 characters, so you don't really see their entire group lifestyle and culture. You just see sort of what he shared. But I wanted to acknowledge that I do know that he is there, and his culture and lifestyle is also very interesting. Also, his physical changes, because he actually kind of incorporates physical traits like a lynx, which is kind of cool. But I'm not counting him as like a whole culture that has their own perspective, just because it's one person who is mostly with the new pack, so it isn't like a whole separate perspective. But he is very cool, and I like him, and I like his lynx. His lynx is very cool as well. But I highly, highly recommend this book to anyone who enjoys fantasy and world building, or cute dogs, because all the dog characters are really, really good. And also, this is getting close to a spoiler, but I feel so bad for Odysseus. And in the first book, he was kind of like, of the dogs, he was like the villain. And I'm not gonna say anything more than that because I don't want to give away too much. But in this book, I feel so bad for Odysseus. Like, he did not deserve what occurred in any of this book, and in parts of the first book as well. But yeah, this book, so good. everyone should read it. Everyone should read the whole series. Also, I am starting to think about what my reading list for next year is going to be, just so that I can make a video of that and probably try to release it on New Year's or shortly after. And I think that what I'm planning to do is carry over the books that I did not finish from my list this year and then add more. And I'm thinking of doing a poll about certain books and like which ones would people like to see the most, because I have a ton of books that I have on my shelf that I haven't read yet, and I would be interested to see what people want. And depending on how many books I finish from my list for this year and how many I think I can read next year, so depending on how many like open spaces I have for books on my list, I do have another series by this author, PC Cast, and her daughter that they wrote together that I think is called A House of Night is the name of the series. And it seems very, very interesting, but it is like, I want to say like 11 or 12 books. And they're shorter than this, because this is kind of a thick book. This one was 563 pages. And the ones in that series I would say are more like that thick on average. And so if people seem to like this author and are interested in that, I can see if I can read that series next year if I have enough space for all of those books. But keep an eye out for if I post a poll in my community tab just to see what people might want to see videos on next year. I will probably be finishing up school in the next year, so I'm hoping I will have more time to read next year and actually complete my whole reading list, because I feel like at this point I'm not gonna finish everything this year, because there's only like 6 weeks left of this year, something like that. And I'm also getting into like finals time, like preparing for finals and having papers and stuff that I need to work on. So I am excited to try and read as much as I can the rest of the year and then see what I will be reading next year, because I think that there are so many books that I have that I really want to read, and I'm interested to see what people want to see. Or if you have a recommendation for me or a genre that you want to see more of, let me know in the comments and I'll try to incorporate more of that. So with that being said, I think this is a good place to end it. I've talked for a while. Go read this book. It's very, very good. The first one is very, very good. So far, the third one is very, very good. And let me know what you're reading and if you have anything that you've really enjoyed, or if you've read this series, being careful of major plot spoilers. Tell me what you thought of it. And please subscribe if you haven't. It really helps me out. And keep reading. Bye!